You are the worker. I'm
the hero.
I'm the hero.
Yeah.
I'm the protagonist of this story, damn it.
Yeah, and
it might be that those people, none of them had any experience shooting those. So
I mean,
probably
absolutely, and yes,
that's
it is like taking that story a little far, but I just like the image of him saying like, no, don't help me.
Yeah,
well, and can you see him taking 2 shots as the lion is running at him? He's like, bang, bang, holds the gun back, and is waiting for somebody to take it, and
that's
then
why I
give him another one.
Yeah, why, like, a lion is charging you. I don't know why your initial reaction wouldn't be, I have a gun that's loaded. I will aim and pull. Yeah, there's a lot of kick, blah, blah, blah. But if, if 7 guns are going off with double barrels at once, the chances of hitting that animal are pretty dang good.
Instead, what a lot of the accounts were, what the primary method of getting away from an attacking lion was?
Run?
Climb a tree. It was so funny. This is another thing I picked up from his book is and then I turned around and so who had my gun had lost his nerve and I saw him 10 feet up the nearest tree. They would do that. So to be able to stand there and hand this guy gun after gun, that actually takes a lot of willpower to expect not to be just obliterated by this angry cat that's running at you.
It might be that there wasn't any tree nearby to climb up either, so they kind of had no choice, maybe.
It's also funny to me because I'm pretty sure lions do climb trees.
Oh, yeah. They're cats. They can
I'm not
climb.
totally sure why they would say, no, they can't get me up here. Definitely not.
Well, yeah, but if there's more than one of you, if you're the first up the tree, then probably okay.
That's true.
And there's the fact that when you're smaller and lighter, you can go up farther than the lion can before it gets kind of...
That's my advantage in this world. I can escape lions faster, or at least higher, than anyone else.
Well, true.
As long as you can jump up and get the branch.
Yeah,
it's kind of short. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Okay, so at this point, Patterson has killed both of the lions. He is triumphant. He finishes his bridge.
Hooray.
And he goes on, like I said, he writes a book, and he does all this stuff to kind of make a living, in a sense, on his deeds. He says that these lions killed at least, if not more, than 135 men in the 9 months that they were stalking everybody at the camp.
That seems like a lot.
It's an awful lot.
It really does. That would be, if you do the math, that is one person every other day during the time frame.
For 9 months.
For 9 months. I personally feel that more likely what's happening is that people are they're scared out of their minds and they're bailing, they're leaving. And you go, oh, well, where is he? I don't know. Well, the lion must have got him. That.
It also would be if there was some kind of shady, if the workers were kind of like indentured workers or something like that, it would be a good way to escape without people going after your family.
Maybe, but
little blood.
But it was Imperial Britain, so it's not like they would turn around and say, your son ran away from the work. They didn't seem to be practicing slavery. I mean, they were trying to get rid of slavery in the area.
No, I don't mean slavery, but I just mean, if there was some sort of deal that was set up, like I'm working off my debt or something like that.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
It'd be a really easy way to be like, you know what? A lion probably took me.
Maybe.
I don't know if that's what the arrangement was, though.
I don't either.
I don't know. I do want to point out, though, with this 135 number that it's probably wrong, as we've already been talking about.
Yeah.
There is some tests that were done with science that I totally don't understand, but they did tests on the skin and the hair of the lions. And they were looking for Delta 13C and nitrogen 15, and somehow used that to determine how many people each of the lions had eaten.
Versus other meats.
Right.
Pigs, goats, whatever.
Yeah, and they figured out that one of them must have eaten 10 people, and the other one must have eaten 25. So one of them was more likely to kill and eat a person than the other one. I'm guessing the other one was more interested in the goats and the horses and the cattle and donkeys and everything else that was true. But
and that's a pretty good little snack.
Yeah, but you got to eat 3 goats in a night.
Yeah.
They're not that big.
I don't know. You think one goat would not be enough?
I don't think a goat would be enough.
Really?
But that's just me.
I think a goat is the same as half a person.
Or a third, at least.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
When was the last time you were around a goat?
I think
They
it's
are
probably
nothing
more.
but sinew and guts and bone.
Sorry, I don't eat goat a whole lot.
Well,
Yeah, me neither.
I have. There's not a whole lot to them.
All right.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
you just buy a 6-pack.
And that's what the lion was doing.
Yeah.
Why is the 6-pack tied to this heavy thing?
Yeah.
That lion must have been so peeved.
Yeah.
Okie doke. Well, that is the end of the story. So at this point now, we need to get into the theories, because our original question is, what was it that was driving these two lions to be attacking humans so
Exactly.
much?
Yeah.
There's a number of theories. The first theory that we're going to talk about is the slave trade. Because as we said in the beginning, slave trade was pretty active in the area. And one of the very well-known behaviors of slave traders is that if a slave dies, you just drop them where they fall. You leave them there and you keep on going. You don't bother to give them a burial or anything like that.
Of course not. Yeah.
And
You might
lion-
dump them like off the trail a little bit, so the other
Maybe,
slaves
yeah.
aren't demoralized.
But lions are scavengers. They have no problem with scavenging.
They can be scavengers.
Yeah. So they're if they are wandering along and oh hey
Somebody left a snack here for me.
there's a thing there, and the hyenas have already started ripping into it, and I bet you I could get some food out of it.
Yeah, just like if I'm walking down the street and I see a Twinkie on the sidewalk, I mean, to go for it.
That's so gross, dude.
Yeah.
So gross. A, that you're eating Twinkies, and B, off the sidewalk.
Yeah.
I know.
Okay, let's keep going. The other thing about the Savo River is apparently, according to the reading, the river itself was a bit of a dumping ground for bodies, because I'm guessing, I've got to presume that it's because the route that they took followed the river. So if somebody dies, you just chuck the body in. So bodies were floating down the river all the time. That's my presumption on that. So the theory here goes that these lions, at this point, they're used to having human remains around to scavenge on, so they come to consider humans as a normal food source. And if you think about it, if there's, let's say there's a bunch of slaves tied up at night in a camp, and you just come running in, and they don't fight back, and they can't run away, well, that's the best cafeteria ever.
Yeah.
Pretty
True.
sweet food. Yeah.
Yeah, so they would at that point consider, people as food source, and now the camps are setting up, so you've got this abundance of humans. That's great. And then add to this, and look, they've also brought along all these other animals, like we talked about before, the goats, the donkeys, the horses, the cows, all of that stuff. That it's too tempting.
Well, you
all
can't-
these things that I know how to eat are here.
Yeah, you totally can't blame them. I mean, I would take advantage of a great opportunity like that.
Yeah, and well, then that's the theory, though. I mean, I don't know what your thoughts are on this in terms of the scavenging, but this theory says that basically they got used to eating people, so people are on the menu.
I guess for me, it just seems like it's a leap to go from this is a super easy thing that doesn't fight back at all. It's just easy meat that's laying there, to go to this is a thing that fights back, and I have to break into a camp and be really smart just because it's meat that's similar to what they're used to, instead of targeting their normal, I guess, natural prey. Because, I mean, it's not as though there was a shortage of normal prey for them around the area, right?
Well, there might have been.
We'll talk about that.
Okay.
There is something.
Because if that's the case, then yes, I agree,
But if you also think about it, if they're used to walking up and seeing a body and then snacking on that body, and now they walk up and that body is still laying on the ground, it just happens to be in this weird contraption that humans call a tent, well, then you walk in and then you grab the body as you normally do, and it's struggling, well, I better run away with it.
I better shake it by the neck real hard and break the neck.
Because that's the thing is that, I guess I never really thought about it, though I knew it, is the way that lions kill. Their natural method of killing is to grab the throat and clamp down and suffocate, while at the same time thrashing about to break the neck. And so it's either breaking the neck or suffocating their prey. And that makes sense when you think about it, but I had never thought it. So that would explain why, they come and they're do the quick clamp and run. The thing is going to die.
Yeah.
Let's go to a sort of similar theory. So our second theory is similar. It's described as partial cremations. And I will be honest that I only saw that in one or two places. I saw the term partial cremations in one place. I saw some other stuff that we'll talk about this in Patterson's book. But I have to admit that I tried to get a better sense of what partial cremations meant. I'm doing research on it. All I can figure is that somebody tried to cremate the body to light a fire, but they didn't do a good job of it, so the body didn't burn.
Well,
I would guess it's the lack of like a pyre.
It takes a lot of wood to actually totally consume it.
And there's not a whole
Right.
lot of wood in that area.
Yeah.
So I would assume that somebody set up a kind of abbreviated, if you will, little pile and set them on fire and watch for a little while, and then you walk away assuming it'll continue to burn, and it goes out and it's
Yeah.
just a half-burned corpse.
Yeah,
in the
and
desert.
And related to that, the other place that I saw some descriptions of not exactly the same thing, but in Patterson's reading or in his book, I came across some stuff about the fact that there were poorly dug graves. So people would try to bury somebody, but they would only, dig down a little bit and then cover the body up. And then other scavengers would come along and dig it up. Now,
absolutely.
Patterson, he says these things, he's blaming the people who were burying the body in kind of a derogatory way. But really, I think it's just that they buried a body not expecting critters to come dig it back up, and critters dig it back up. And so this, again, is following the line, the same eating people, because they've been scavenging on them.
It's possible they were slaves too. I mean, it's possible that slaves weren't actually just unceremoniously dumped, but kind of haphazardly given some kind of something.
Right. Yeah. That's absolutely possible.
Or workers. I mean, it's not unlikely that a lot of workers were dying while they were working on this.
If they send you out to dig a grave for somebody and bury the body, people tend to cut corners a lot. You might be tempted to bury it 2 or 3 feet down and just take the rest of the day off and just say you spent all day digging the grave.
Yeah.
Totally, yeah.
Well, and building railroads was not a safe occupation.
Oh, no.
People died all the freaking time.
Yeah.
I actually kind of wonder if that's part of the number that he had in terms of where that 135 number came. Is
Yeah.
that
Maybe
somebody
people died.
Somebody died,
Yeah.
and they didn't want to say, "Oh, well, we accidentally had this pile of stuff fall on him." They just said, "Oh, well, the lion took him."
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's entirely plausible as well. The next theory that we have, which we alluded to a little bit, this is the one that we were kind of talking about, which is the food source. The theory is cattle plagues. The Tsavo lions are one of the only animals that are able to take down Cape buffalo. And if you don't know what a Cape buffalo is, it's kind of like a water buffalo. They're not actually related, but it looks like a water buffalo, only bigger. They're huge creatures, and there's tons of meat on them. The problem is, as a food source for lions, they kind of suck because they're just as likely to injure or kill the lion as not. So they're very tough to take down.
I would definitely be looking for easier sources of food.
Well, and lucky for the lions, we as humans love cows, and we brought a whole bunch of cows to the area. So the lions would have said, well, the cow is much easier to eat.
Doesn't have horns.
Well, yeah, it does. But the thing is that cows are not very good at fighting back, so chances are good that they're easier to take down. Except that there was, in the 1890s, a rash of cattle plagues. It is Rinderpest disease, which is basically a fatal disease for cattle. They get lesions and they have problems in their sinuses, and it's really kind of gross. So only if you've got a strong stomach do you look at some of this, because it's not pretty, and it takes him down pretty quickly. And it was taking out entire herds at this time in the mid to late 1890s. So if these lions have now learned to hunt cows, and hey, the cows are no longer available and I'm starving.
Yeah. And then all these people show up.
And I have all these people show up that are making all this noise, and they smell, and there's blood, and they're cooking. Well, then that would explain why they would go there.
Sure. But the game all died.
Yeah.
But I think is it Rinderpest or Rinderpest?
I said Rinderpest, but it could be Rinderpest.
Yeah.
I'm not
Doesn't
positive.
matter. Somebody out there look it up and send us an email.
Yeah.
but I think it killed other game. It didn't just kill off the cows, right? Didn't it kill other game besides cows?
Even-toed ungulates.
Yeah.
So that means critters
antelope.
that have cloven hooves, so
Yeah.
two toes. So it killed giraffes, it killed the antelope, it actually killed some of the Cape buffalo, and what was the other one?
The devil.
No, not the devil. It did not kill the robot devil. But it killed off all of these other animals that, it was deer was the other one, because there are deer in the area. So it's killing off all these prey animals. So it's not just the cows that are gone at this point. There's a lot of animals that are disappearing because it's spreading through the entire area.
That sucks.
Here's my problem with this idea. So this is the first one that I'm going to say I kind of call bunk on, is that if that were the case, because this was all over the region, why is it only these two lions that we know about who were just going on these giant human killing sprees?
I guess my question would be how close to human populations were other lions? You know, because it seems like the sort of thing where the lions at this point, if they have, cheap prey options, they're going to go for whatever's easiest thing. They're not going to make 50, 60, 70-mile treks to find a population of humans to get a human in a hut that's like you have to break in and there's like all this other stuff.
You get to pick a lock.
Versus like these two, it just so happened that a huge group of humans were just walking through their territory, camping in easy access tents. So, for me, it doesn't bother me that much, I guess, because I presume most people in that area were, had huts and things like that, more permanent structures that would be harder for a lion to get into, versus these workers.
That's a good point. It's a permanent structure.
Right. They're living in a tent, and they're like easy access because they've just wandered right into the middle of these two lions' territory. That sort of thing, I guess.
And were there a lot of people living in that area?
So it wasn't heavily populated.
It was nowhere to nowhere, remember?
Yeah, I mean, the area was very rural. There were cattle everywhere, but if you think about it, a huge herd can be overseen by a very small group of people. So, I mean, and villages aren't typically all that huge.
And as you said, these lions even, in their most aggressive state, were just as likely to go after livestock as they were humans.
True.
So if there's humans living in huts and livestock out, it wouldn't be that weird that we wouldn't have reports from this time that if there were livestock that were healthy in villages, that lions were taking those. That wouldn't be...
Plus, the indigenous people who were living in that area probably weren't writing the accounts of the lions stealing their goat and sending it to the British
No,
newspapers.
they were like, oh, yeah, duh, a lion stole another goat. Weird.
Part of the cost of doing business.
Yeah,
Right.
no, that makes a ton of sense. Okay.
But they aren't-
I
but they're,
I
you know.
retract my distaste for this theory.
So I like this theory.
Well, let's go to a theory that I'm going to see if you really like. Our next theory is bad teeth. So these lions had to go see a dentist.
I've heard this.
There are some researchers, and on the name of these two gentlemen, but there are two researchers who have done a lot of studies on lions in general, and part of their studies were on the Savo lions. And they say that they examined the skulls of these two, and one of them had missing canines. It was the upper left, I want to say. The canines were missing. And that those were there, and then they did some x-rays on the skull and found what were signs of lesions in the jawbone. So that led them to believe that it was probably a very painful injury, and that it had probably happened at least 2 years before the animal's death. And so that would impede its ability to hunt prey as normal, because we talked about this before, a lion has to be able to clamp down with its jaw on the throat and hang on. Well, if there's a set of canines and one side missing, you aren't going to have as good of a bite.
Because people are slower and weaker than, say, gazelles.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes, we don't fight nearly as hard
And
as
our
the gazelle.
hide is much softer.
Yes, our skin is much thinner. Put the lotion on. Sorry, I beat you to that. So then we go to, so it wasn't actually, I think I was wrong with the upper left in terms of the missing canines, but it doesn't matter because I'm now looking here because they did examine the skull of the second lion, and that lion had fractures in its jaw, which were around the